22-year-old Corey Johnson will be representing South Australia in the Australasian Young Drivers Championships. I caught up with Corey prior to his engagements at Club Menangle today. Corey, good to catch up with you. Now, one of your ambitions in this early stages of your career was to drive at Club Menangle, and here you are.
Yeah, it's one of them things. It's a road you never think you get to, but today's the day, and hopefully all goes well.
First impressions?
Very impressive. Very impressive. Wouldn't say daunting's the word, because you sort of just take everything in because it's a new place, but it's very impressive, very professional. You can see why it's a place that holds world-class sort of events in the Southern Hemisphere. It's the place for it.
Yeah, it's the biggest track and the fastest track in the Southern Hemisphere, in contrast to what you're usually used to driving, Gawler and Globe Derby.
Yeah, it's sort of used to the sort of bread cutting tracks, you know, like Globe Derby's 840 and Gawler's 998, and I go to Mildura and that's half mile, and so sort of the biggest track I get on is either Swan Hill sometimes or Victor Harbour when they have their meeting once a year, and they're 1100. So I've driven in New Zealand in a couple of grass tracks, and they're 1400 metre tracks. I've driven tracks like that, but never been on a track this big in Australia.
Family involvement is rather intense and steep, in particular your dad Lane, who covers many areas of racing.
Yeah, Dad covers all areas. If it can be done, Dad will do it. He was a farrier for many years and still breaks in a lot of horses and trains and pre-trains and has the occasional drive when he feels like it. And you know, it sort of all happens at home. They don't got to leave the place for anything unless they need something serious. So yeah, it's Dad's pretty hands-on. If it can be done, it gets done.
And your mum's not too far behind him, Pam.
Yeah, Mum's pretty good. Mum sort of handles all the sort of bookwork, and she's been around horses for years, and gallopers and paces, and been through the whole kit and caboodle. So it all works together. And
your sister Emma has a very interesting and important position in harness racing.
Yeah, Emma started off with, like all of us, at home with the horses, and Emma sort of took to the other side of the fence and become the starter, and started at home for just under 6 years, I think it was, 5 years maybe, something like that, and then she got an offer to move to Victoria, and she grabbed it with both hands, and I think it's been about nearly 18 months and she hadn't looked back.
This family involvement goes back a little bit further to your dad's mum and dad.
Yeah, Dad's mum and dad was very heavy into it. They had a lot of paces back in the days when they were training at Gawler, and their mum and dads also had horses, so it's sort of thing that you're never getting away from it.
And Corey, like all young participants coming through the grades and getting involved in harness racing on a professional level, you started out with the pony trots. Two horses in particular, we had Jake, who was known as Little Paleface, and Pipsqueak.
Yeah, they were two good little ponies. They sort of started off where you all start out, you know, with the ponies, and Pipsqueak, she was one that Dad broke in, and she was never really one for anyone else, but she was a hard thing to get along with. But Dad always said, you know, the hard ones are hard and the easy ones are easy, so you sort of get chucked in the deep end, you either swim or you drown.
Already in just the early stages of your career, you've passed 200 winners, so you're going along in a very productive manner.
Yeah, sort of just trying to battle away and look after the ones that look after you. You know, you get trainers that put faith in you, so you try and do the right thing by them and study your form and look after, you know, if the horse is not going to get a run, instead of it shooting through and running a real fast finish in 6, you try and look after it so then it can be fresh and ready for next week. So yeah, it's just trying to look after the people that look after you, and that's how I operate.
I noticed that your favourite horse, and it took me by surprise, a bit further afield than harness racing, the Great Takeover Target.
Yeah, he was. I like watching replays of him and things like that. He's a very powerful horse, and sort of the way he worked into his races was things you don't see. You know, there's horses nowadays that do it because they're getting faster, gallopers or paces, but a horse like him, you know, they don't come along too often.
You got a bucket list, which, and we see the South Australia Cup and the South Australia Trotters Cup appearing on that bucket list. In particular, the South Australian Trotters Cup. You love the trotter.
Yeah, love the trotters. Dad's had a couple that have run in the South Australian trotting last couple of years, and a couple of them have been close around the money and just not had luck or things haven't worked out. And it's always been a thing you want it to happen to win one of them races, because it's what you sort of wake up for in the morning. Especially with your own horses, but yeah, can't get enough of trotters. Love trotters.
So I suppose it was a special moment in your career when your first winner was a trotter.
Yeah, first winner for the stable was a trotter. He was a big horse. He was bred at home. He went through a lot of operations. He had 14 bone chips removed over 6 operations, and he still come back and won 2-3 races after that. So it was good to win on him, especially first winner for the stable was on him. So it was quite good, and he looked after us quite well.
Also on your list of father's credits, he's also does a lot of maintenance work for both Globe Derby and Gawler.
Yeah, he did a bit of work at Gawler when they need a hand, but he's been at Globe Derby for about 9 years, I think now, doing the tracks, and he that's his second sort of role. He does that, and he likes the way he goes about it. Goes down, does the tracks in the morning, and we work the horses in the afternoon, and he likes it, and it's a good job that suits him. And it's another aspect you get to see too, like how you should prepare it for horses when it's wet, or when it's too dry, or when it's coming in the summer months. So we have a bit of cushion for horses that need a bit of cushion. It's good, and it's also not just the fact of he's a maintenance and track man. He also knows the other side of the fence too. He's driven in races and he trains, so he knows what they need to have and acquire.
Special moment in your young career. You won the Gawler Cup with Clarendon Envoy for Claire Gable, who's been such a wonderful supporter of yours.
Yeah, Claire's been good to me over the years. I think I won something like 10 races on Clarendon Envoy, and got through the grades quite well, and presented to that race. In the pre-leading up months, he presented up to that race quite well, and he just, that day it was just sort of like everything lobbed where you need it to be. And he's a nice horse when he's right, and that day he was put his best foot forward and gave 110%.
You also expanded your harness racing commitments, being a farrier and also a dentist.
Yeah, do a little bit of dentistry work on the side, only for the ones that need to have it. I don't like doing too many outside people's horses with the dentistry stuff, but with the farrier work, it's head over heels. It's the sort of thing that there's easily about 30 horses I'm shoeing a week, and it's a good thing to be in, because you get to see the other side of it, or you get one that might brush a knee, or a trotter that runs behind, or things like that, and you can fiddle around with it yourself. You don't necessarily got to go, oh well, we got to do this because the farrier's coming today, or things like that. And I like it. It's it's a bit not hard in our state, but it's a bit unreliable to rely on the industry itself, because we only have our 2-3 meetings a week sort of thing. So we got to sort of, unless you're on a real good wicket, you sort of got to make another income to support yourself if you have a bad couple of weeks. So it works out well for me.
Corey, we all have our idols. Who would you be your idols?
The horse I like the most is probably Sky Breeze. He's been pretty good to me. Yeah.
What about as far as drivers or trainers are concerned?
Drivers and trainers. I like watching Greg Sugars and Nathan Jack. They could win on a horse going backwards, as simple as that. But yeah, I like them. I like the way Jess Tubb presents her horses to the races, and Kevin Pizzuto, his horses always look good. I like watching his horses. They seem more tough and very strong. So things like that you just keep an eye on, and it's just people you aspire to be like, really.
I've got to ask you this question. What's the go about seeing a two-headed fox?
We won't go too far into that, but it was a young Corey that didn't understand life.
This wasn't when you dressed up as a leprechaun, was it?
No. That was many time after that.
Well, let's get on to this hairstyle. You've described it as the wing keel of harness racing, or being like Samson.
Yeah, a lot of people give it two different names, a lot of different names. I tend to have a lot of the bald trainers I drive for, they complain about it a lot, and I always say, well, it's only because you haven't got it. But no, it's just something, bit of fun, bit of difference, you know. I don't really like to be the same as everyone else, and I've always been like that, so that's what we roll with.
Harness racing wasn't first on your list of occupations, boilermaker, mechanic, policeman?
Yeah, sort of got in line with a couple of different things. It was always the idea of, because you couldn't make such a go of it at home, I didn't really believe enough in myself to be a farrier, and I sort of wanted to get a actual trade that was sort of down on paper, and that's what we lined up for. And as all things, you know, your passion overtakes your work, doesn't it, really?
And like any young man, you were into the football and cricket?
Yeah, like watching the footy. It's just something to watch, a bit of pastime. You got to have something to sort of pass off your time, or sort of have another interest as such, just to give yourself a bit of a breather. Like watching like the AFL and the Big Bash. So it's just something you just do.
Well, Corey, it's been great to meet you. Representing South Australia, go well, and it's been a pleasure to be involved with you.
Thank you for having me on.